Have a seat on your porcelain throne. It's time to talk some shit on the Powell movement.
Welcome to the Powell movement. I'm your host, Mike Powell, and I'm getting a slow start today after seeing Florence and the Machine last night. This is the band that sings the song "The Dog Days Are Over," a song that my late wife Ange used in one of her hospital videos, and it always makes me really sad and emotional for some reason. And since she died, I've listened to that song every morning when I wake up. I work out, I cry, and then I get on with my day. And when I'm working out, when that song is over, I never turn the music off. So I know Florence and the Machine's catalog of music pretty well. And I decided long ago that when she plays Seattle, I'm going to go see the show, get all emotional, and then I'm going to stop listening to her every day. And last night was the night, and her show was amazing. The energy in the room was electric. And it's a funny thing, because when people are going crazy at a punk rock show or a Metallica show, all you can smell is sweat, and there's a vibe of anger that's given off. But when you go to a show like this, all you can smell is conditioner, and there's love in the air everywhere. It was really amazing. I cried a bunch during the show, but the funny thing was, I looked around, and everyone else was crying too. And they didn't even know Ange. And to tell you the truth, I was on the fence about going to this one. It's like, do I go to this chick rock show solo? I mean, she's an amazing artist, but do I really want to do that by myself? But if I didn't go, I would have been so pissed at myself. Because this is not only therapeutic, but it was maybe a little bit of closure that I really needed. And while I did listen to Florence and the Machine when I woke up this morning, I won't be doing that anymore. I don't feel like I have to anymore. And really, while Ange used that song in a post, and I know she liked Florence and the Machine, it wasn't her favorite band. Taylor Swift, Haim, and Silver Spun Pickups were her favorites. That's who she really loved. That's my personal life rant. Now on to my brief political rant. I hate our president and I hope he dies from natural causes today. Rant over. Now it's time to talk about the show. I'm getting towards the end of this podcast. I'm down to my last 15 episodes, and there are some stories that I need to tell before I finish to help complete the history of snow that I've created. One of those guests is Jeff Pensiero, a lifelong snow guy who founded Baldface Lodge when he was in his mid-20s. Now, I've covered a lot of heli ski places over the years, but I've never covered a snowcat operation, especially not one owned by a snowboarder. Because now that I think about it, outside of Brands, Guides, Travis Rice, and Jeff, are there other snowboarders that have had a huge contribution to the sport recently? I mean, outside of Crush and Pat Bridges and the late Ken Block and Shaun White, I'm not really sure. I'm trying to think of who they are, and I can't really tell you. While I'm sure there's a ton of people, I can't think of them off the top of my head, but I know there's a ton in skiing, and maybe that's more because I'm a ski podcast, and I know a little bit more about that, but who cares? I'm just rambling now. I mean, I guess there are the agents that make money off of the athletes, but they aren't really contributing. They're just taking from the sport, so I don't know. I guess some agents put back. But since I'm not going to get Travis Rice or Shaun White on the podcast, because I'm not even going to try to, it's important that I get guys like Jeff on the show because he created cool shit that everybody wants to use in their pursuit of chasing powder. And I was lucky to have Jeff on the podcast to tell us how Baldface came to be. In the coming weeks, I'm going to be filling a few holes with interviews that have to happen so I get the full picture of ski and snowboard history recorded, and then I jump into my final 10 episodes. Right now, I have 7 of them planned, and they're going to be fucking fire, just like this week's episode with Jeff. And before we get into it, I want to thank you for listening and let you know if you need stickers, tents, banners, flags, I can get you the best pricing out there because I'm a salesman who doesn't work on commission, and my goal is to get you the best deal possible, not make the most margin on my end. I don't care. To get a quote, email me at mike.powell@diecutstickers.com and I will get you a quote from the best sticker manufacturer in the world. Finally, while I love reviews and ratings because they make me feel good about myself and they bump me up the algorithm and also the charts, I'm not too concerned with that these days. My goal is to get to 500 episodes with some incredible content. But to keep going, I need you to do one thing for me. Please support my incredible sponsors who've made this thing happen forever. I'm talking about Elan Skis and Outdoor Research. And now it's time to talk to the founder of Baldface Lodge, Jeff Pensiero.
How are you?
Good, man. Yourself?
I'm good.
Thank you for making some time. I know you've done these before, so you're used to them.
It's been a minute. I haven't done one in a while.
All right. Well, with the way that I do them, I usually jump right into them. I give you no preparation, no questions ahead of time, and we jump right in. And I lead you along, so it's pretty easy. I feel like for the most
Oh
part.
my God. All right, let's go whitewater rafting down the canyon of exploration together.
All right, here we go. So I need to make this episode different because, like I said, you've done every podcast there is to do. But before any of them existed, you reached out to me after I interviewed Sherry McConkey. And while I didn't get you on the podcast way back then, better late than never. In this one, the goal is to tell your story a little bit different. I'm going to tell a little bit of it for you just to keep it moving. I'm also going to try to get some new stuff out of you as well. But I'm going to start off with something that every single person talks about with you, and it's pretty much the most important part of your life, the defining part of your life, owning Baldface Lodge. But I'm not going to talk to you about owning Baldface Lodge. But for skiers that should know, Baldface is kind of like Retallick, but for snowboarders. So it's where Retallick is for skiers and for everyone, Baldface is for snowboarders and for everyone. But at Baldface, bottle rockets are a thing. And can you talk about the history of bottle rockets at Baldface?
Oh, well, I got to correct you. It's Roman candles, not bottle rockets.
Oh, my bad.
No problem. So, well, I got to unpack a lot there.
I know, I just threw a lot in there.
I know. Well, the Roman candles, gosh, there's a gas station kind of near the bottom here in town called Tag'em Shell. And I noticed one day that they had fireworks and they had Roman candles in this little locked up cage in the back. And I was like, that'd be fun. So I bought a box of them and brought them up to the lodge back in the early days. And everybody got drunk. And then I handed out the Roman candles and thought, wow, this will be fun. We'll shoot them up in the air. And basically it turned into a full on shoot each other in the face with Roman candles battle in front of the lodge, and the lodge was getting shot with them, and I think a tree caught on fire, and it was really fun. So, long story short, it kind of became a tradition. But one of the only rules at the lodge is don't shoot the lodge with Roman candles. That's a rule.
Makes sense.
No journey is another rule, but I'm reconsidering that rule lately. And don't be an asshole is the third rule. So the first rule is don't shoot the lodge with Roman candles.
And when you think about your place and the way that you've built it, compared to the ski lodges of the world, where you pretty much have no rules other than don't shoot the lodge, I mean, did you almost build your place the way it is? Because at ski lodges, they would have rules for the most part. Maybe Retallick, not as much as other places. But for the most part, ski lodges have rules like don't bring fireworks. Like, we're here to host you and you're here to enjoy yourselves. But at your place, it's like you're at home, do whatever you want. Just don't burn the place down.
Kind of. I mean, I don't want anybody to get hurt, and I don't want anybody to step on anybody else's good time. I'm a little bit of the referee up there, and I think my staff does a good job of keeping it between the mayo and the mustard and not letting things get too out of control. But I can't speak to other lodges. And, ski lodge, snowboard lodge, they're all backcountry lodges where people get a chance to experience something really special and really fun. And I'm not saying the way we do it is any better, or it's just different. And I've been to a bunch of other lodges and I think they're fantastic. I just really wanted to do something that was kind of reminiscent of what I was doing in Tahoe when I started it, which was hanging out with my friends and going snowboarding and hanging out at night, playing a lot of music. And that was just where I started it at, instead of trying to be some Swiss chalet with raclette and pickles and, this fake kind of European ski culture. I like it and it's cool, but it's not me at all.
So you are the medium that wants to make sure that no one gets injured, especially at these Roman candle wars. Has anybody ever been injured in a Roman candle war?
Oh my God, yes, for sure. We've got lots of burn creams and remedies for getting hit with a Roman candle ball in the first aid room, as well as all our other first aid stuff. For sure.
So you have to plan for those type of injuries. And then thinking about just the place that you work and the place that you own, people come there for the vacation of a lifetime and they save up all year. Some people, and other people just go because they can do it and they're ballers. But either way, all walks of life come to your place because they want to ski powder and they want to be at Baldface. But in the mountains, accidents happen. So I'm sure you have to plan for injuries every year. Is it kind of like one or two big injuries a year and that's it? Or how does that work in your world?
Well, it's been a lot of years now, and, we're really fortunate. We've been able to handle everything that's happened. We've had a couple of really tragic, bad injuries up there. And, our job is really to keep you comfortable, do no further damage, and get you on to further medical care. And we're really good at doing that. That's the main thing that we do. We try to keep you out of trouble. And then if you do get into trouble, we get you down to town and to a doctor as fast as possible. things happen. I wouldn't say it happens a lot. This year, what we do is we have what we call a plan A, a plan B, and a plan A is like a really serious call out where we call for other people for help. Plan B, we figure we can handle it in-house. That's like a blown ACL or, maybe a broken bone. We can call a helicopter and get you down to town. Plan A is maybe we bring a doctor up, or we bring search and rescue in, or we would call Ritalik or one of our neighbors and bring in some extra help.
Okay.
We really haven't had a lot of those, maybe 2. And the rest are all stuff we can deal with usually. Luckily, knock on wood when I say it, but yeah.
And I think the beauty of the experience that you provide is even if someone does go up there and get injured, they're still really likely to come back the next year when they're healthy.
That's true. Most of them do, luckily.
And I would say that's kind of how we'll intro the podcast. But for you grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. And I don't know if you're a Cleveland sports fan or not, but if you were a Cleveland sports fan in a pre-LeBron world. Did you have your heart broken year after year, or did you not care about team sports?
Man, we're really going like straight from the Roman candles to Cleveland.
Yeah, I mean, I try to do a little intro of funny stuff in the beginning and then go right to the sorrow of your childhood and Ernest Biner fumbling away a Super Bowl.
Hey, man, it's not just Ernest Biner. It's that goddamn John Elway in The Drive, and it's Jim Plunkett in the Raiders. It's like being from Cleveland is a really cool thing, and I really am glad. I'm fortunate. I think it made me a little bit more resilient and made me dig a little bit harder than maybe some other people. And I'm not afraid to lose and come back and reload. And that's really what Cleveland is. It's this Midwestern town where there's a lot of super real people there that don't really give a shit about what the rest of the world think about them. And they really support the Browns and the Cavs and, the Guardians now. And we even had a hockey team back when I was there, the Cleveland Barons. And yeah, I was a sports kid for sure. That's what you do in Cleveland. You go to concerts and you go to sports. And I was there for a lot of those games. The Indians, as a matter of fact, were so bad when I grew up that we used to take it's called the RTA, kind of like the train. It's kind of like a subway, but it's above ground. And we would take it into town. And after the third inning, it was like $5 to go to an Indians game because nobody went to Indians games.
Yeah.
And we would go to see Reggie Jackson or Bobby Bell, or we would go to see the heroes from the other teams because we didn't have any heroes on the Indians. It's kind of rad.
Yeah, you do what you've got to do, and you guys got close a couple times, but in thinking of growing up in Cleveland and you being a skier, did you go to the little hills in Ohio, and is that where you came up on the weekends?
Yeah, for sure. There's a little place called Boston Mills Brandywine, and there's one called Alpine Valley that is funny because it's actually you drive up and it's like a ditch to a creek, and then you come back up. It's literally a valley. Yeah, and then we used to take a Geiger ski bus. We'd meet at 4:00 in the morning. My parents would drive me and my brother in, and then we'd take a 4 or 5 hour bus ride to Peak and Peak or Holiday Valley, or actually a ski resort that was called Cocaine in upstate New York.
That's crazy. It's a powder day at Cocaine Mountain.
Every day is a powder day at Cocaine.
Yeah, it's so cool.
That would have been in the 70s. Yeah, true. And then we would come back, and that was where I started. And my father actually was a food salesman. He sold food from out of the area and from foreign countries in Cleveland. And he had a distribution company. One of the things he sold was potatoes. And out of that came a visit to Sun Valley, Idaho when I was really little, 4 or 5.
Was that just one trip? I thought you had a place there, but it was just one trip?
Well, yeah, in 1976, I think my dad bought a condo there.
Okay.
For $30,000 or something. And we had a condo in Sun Valley, so we would go out there Christmas break every year. Boom, the day we were out of school, we went out to Sun Valley. We would get lessons out there and turn me and my brother loose on the mountain, and I made a lot of friends out there and started really getting into it. That was skiing until snowboarding started in maybe 84, I think was my first time on a snowboard.
But you were in Sun Valley when it was all happening in skiing, right? It was like Dick Barrymore and all that kind of shit was going on.
Wayne Wong.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
So you got to see ski culture in its prime because, ski culture in a lot of different places has a lot of different things, like you said, raclette and all that. But the coolest part of ski culture was probably 1982 in Sun Valley or something like that.
Maybe. I mean, I didn't know it when it was happening, but we were definitely there, and we'd sneak into the bars once in a while when I got a little bit older. There were a lot of ladies in really furry boots and crazy sunscreen and makeup, that Zinca stuff was everywhere. There was a lot of adult drinking out of Boda bags on the mountain. I remember. Yeah, it was a neat time. It was really neat. I'm really fortunate that we got to experience that. And then we'd go out in the summer too. And a lot of those ski bums, Dave Stelling and all those kind of guys, were whitewater rafting guides in the summer. So that got me onto the Salmon River and kind of started a long relationship with the river out there too.
Oh, it's so cool that you have that culture involved into your youth. And then when you think about music, did you grow up playing an instrument?
Yeah, actually, my dad was a musician. He was a very accomplished pianist.
A potato-selling pianist.
He was. And other things, olive oil, and my dad was an amazing dude, all sorts of cool shit. But he played piano. I grew up listening to piano in the house. And then I learned how to play piano, but then left and started playing bass and then guitar, probably age 8 or 9. And I've been chipping away at guitar for my whole life. It's one of the constants I've had. And I'm really grateful for that too.
And a lot of musicians come in and out of your place. Who have you gotten a chance to jam with that you might have listened to on headphones before you got to jam with them at Baldface?
Oh, man, that's a great question. I mean, I've had a lot of people through there, but I kind of don't like that. It's like their privacy is important to me too.
Okay.
But yeah, I've definitely got to play with some pretty heavy people, and they're in their happy place up there. So you really get a great chance to meet them in a place where there's no pressure and it's not like a weird thing. The coolest part about it is I started playing with Willie McMillan up there, and we're in a band together now. And we play a few shows every summer and we record records together, and we've got a 5-piece band with some amazing people. And it's become one of my absolute joys of my off season playing with those guys. They're called the Risky Livers.
Oh, that's awesome, man. When you were a kid, did you want to be a pro athlete or a rock star?
I don't think I wanted to be either. I think I was born to be an entrepreneur, to tell you the truth. I had a lemonade stand when I was a kid, and I got a job when I was like 13 years old. And it's weird, but as much as I love snowboarding and music and everything, I truly have loved this process of creating something out of nothing and making a lot of mistakes and refining what it is. And, I think we're at year 28 now, and I'm super proud of it. It's a really cool thing. And I love that I'm an entrepreneur, and I got other projects I'm starting, and I have a consulting company. I help other people with their dreams. And I think I'm doing exactly what I was put here to do, to tell you the truth, Mike. And I love snowboarding, and I love fishing, and I love being a musician, but I love being an entrepreneur, and I super love being a dad.
We'll talk about maybe being a dad later on, but you have so much to talk about. I was thinking about when you were talking that in your life, it's like you've always put yourself in these great positions and great places, but you've always looked for the business move that could be the next thing that could be forward. Like I was talking to people about you being on a boat at some point, and they were like, dude, he was going to invent this thing called the girl flag or something like that, where we'd never have to hold a flag up when people fell in the water again.
Oh, yeah.
And he just had those ideas, and he was always an entrepreneur thinking of something else.
I forgot about that. How did you even, what did we call that?
So from when you were little, that kind of stuff happened.
Yeah.
But then, like, you surrounded yourself with, I would say, elite people from an early age, because you go to this boarding school, Proctor Academy in New Hampshire, and that's like a privileged place to go. And when you think about it, do you go there because you're in trouble? Do you go for sports? What was the reasoning?
No. So I had 3 older siblings, and I got to watch them and their friends mature and go through the whole thing. And my dad, I said, was a pretty amazing dude, and my mom's an amazing mom. I had great parents, and they didn't have like tons, but they saved up for us to go to college. And I kind of watched my older brother and sister go to college, and I watched my other brother kind of get ready to go. And I was in this high school where I just kind of felt like I was going to go down a pretty bad path. I recognized it. And this girl from my high school went to Proctor, and I went to my mom and dad in 8th or 9th grade. And I was like, I know you guys are helping my sister and my brothers go to school. Do you think I could go to high school instead of college? Because this place looks amazing. They've got a recording studio, and it's up in New Hampshire. And like, I kind of want to get out of Cleveland and see the world, but I think I want to get out of here before high school. And we went and visited, and my dad was like, tell you what, you go to this school, but you got to get a scholarship into college if you're going to go to this school. So I had like a pretty clear path on what I had to do, and I was able to do it.
You got a scholarship to college?
Yeah, I got a scholarship to Colorado State after.
For music or for being a nerd?
Believe it or not, it was for lacrosse.
I thought you weren't an athlete, or no, you didn't say
I don't know. It wasn't like a top tier school or anything. It wasn't 100% scholarship, but they offered like 50% of my tuition, and I got to be an in-state tuition when I went if I played lacrosse, which was kind of cool. And then they dissolved the lacrosse team the year after I got there. So I played for one season and then I didn't have to do anything, which was kind of dope.
But you kept your scholarship there?
Yeah.
Which is pretty sick. And then in Colorado, are you skiing a lot, or has snowboarded come around yet? Or is it like right around when people are doing snurfers and shit like that?
Yeah, I was in a band and we were playing like Summit County on weekends and après and stuff. And then I was skiing and we would snowboard driving over Loveland Pass going to A Basin. So we would bring snowboards and snowboard off the highway down and on the way back over Eisenhower Tunnel and stuff.
Okay.
And then we go to usually A Basin or Breckenridge and ski. And then right as snowboarding was kind of getting going in Colorado, I was kind of going down a bad road again and like drinking a lot and other things and kind of being a dumbass, to tell you the truth. I was a music major and international tourism major, and I was kind of getting shitty grades and just being a bit of a shithead, to tell you the truth.
I mean, do all the music kids just smoke weed, take mushrooms and acid, and play music together, and that's like music?
There was some of that for sure. Like, I don't know that all the kids were doing that, but yeah, that was kind of the crowd.
Like the
I was
fun
running
kids.
with.
Yeah, the fun kids.
Yeah, and it was cool. It wasn't like getting super bad or anything, but once again, I kind of have this self-regulating ability to pull myself out of bad situations. And I went back to my dad and I was like, shit, Dad, I'm not doing it. And we really had a good talk, and I was really interested in the ski industry, and I was losing my love for wanting to be a musician just because I was like, I'm not going to be a music teacher. I don't know what I'm going to do with this degree. And my dad, he found this school that had a ski business management program called Sierra Nevada College. And old dad swooped in and helped me move out to Sierra Nevada College. And we made a deal where he helped me for the first year, and then I had to get a job and work my way through. So it ended up taking me about 5 years to get through because I got jobs in the winter and I went to school in the summer. And I didn't graduate from Sierra Nevada till 95. And I graduated from high school in 87.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So you took your time.
I took my time, but luckily in Lake Tahoe, I got so lucky and met this dude named Brian Snelson, and he was the K2 rep. And that was right when snowboarding was starting to happen. And so I was the tech rep for Brian Snelson, and I waxed all the skis and sat in the van in the parking lot and did all the demos and went to all the trade shows. And Brian wrote all the paper and had all the relationships with all the shops. And kind of little by little, I started being the snowboard guy for K2 as K2 was coming up.
That was Kemper, right?
Yeah, my first job was with Kemper with this guy, Mike Kaiser. He was a really nice guy.
Yeah, how do you get in there? You're like in school and you're this overachiever who wants to have his foot in the door. So how do you get to Kemper?
My friend Dylan Farr was going pretty hard into snowboarding, and he knew Mike, and I had just broken my ankle, and Dylan was like, hey, this guy's a really good guy. He could probably do the demos for you. So I started with an Astro van and a bunch of Kemper snowboards at Squaw Valley and would drive around all the way to Dodge Ridge and Sierra Tahoe. I did all those places with the van. And then after one season, I started to get to know Snelson, and then he offered me a job being his kind of right-hand man. And I stayed at K2 for 4 years, maybe 3 or 4 years through college.
It's time for my first sponsor break, and I'm going to start with longtime sponsor Elan Skis. And if you haven't skied on an award-winning ripstick yet, you're missing out on something that ski brands have long said wasn't an option. A lightweight ski that powers through anything and truly rips. It's game-changing. And Elan, while they've been around for 80 years, have been changing the game of modern skiing by doing things like adding side cut to straight skis with the Elan SCX, which changed the whole industry. They're building skis by skiers in a place with ski culture in the Slovenian Alps. And most importantly, they're supporting local shops. When the competition goes and starts selling direct, Elan sticks by their retailers who have been by them since the beginning. Elan is just built differently, and they innovate with a purpose, and that's to make your on-snow experience better, easier, and more fun. It's this approach that brought you the Ripstick and all of their award-winning skis. And when you're in the market for a new pair, visit an Elan retailer, demo a pair of their skis, and you'll know why Elan has built a cult following here in the States. To find out more about all the skis or to find an Elan dealer, head on over to elanskis.com. Now it's time to jump back into the podcast. When you were there at K2, is it like
Yeah.
a tech repping gig where you're going and doing race skis and getting people dialed?
Yep.
And then were you working with a guy named Marker Husky who's supposed to be a legend?
Oh, hell yeah. Her husky was 100%.
So who is that guy? Because he's never going to come on a podcast ever, but I hear anytime his name comes up, people are like, oh, hell yeah.
Great guy.
Who is that guy?
Mark was this bigger than life dude. He was a speed racer, like a ski speed racer.
Like Jimbo Morgan kind of guy?
Yeah, like he had the funny helmet and the tight suit, and he would go straight fucking down the mountain fast. That was her husky. And yeah, he was a great guy, man. Mark was older than me by a bit. And yeah, he helped Stelson too. But he did other things. I think he did some Elan Skis and maybe was more into the bindings and maybe clothes. I can't remember. But he would be at the demos and help out a lot. We spent a lot of time together, me and Mark, back in the day. And that's where I really started deviating into the snowboard world, and he kept with the ski world. But he ended up starting a granite countertop company. Look at this memory, Alpine Stone, I think, out of Kings Beach.
Okay.
And he just started doing crazy granite countertops for rich people in the basin.
And got totally out of the business, but you're in the business. And was this during the whole like shape ski revolution?
Yep, sure was.
Are you ready for my shape ski joke? Because I have one. I don't know if I can play it on the podcast, but I've got one that was really good back then. What do you skiers?
I don't know.
Parabolickers.
Oh my God.
You get it?
There you go.
From the parabolic ski days.
Parabolic. Yeah.
Okay, you ready for my snowboard joke too? I've got one. What's the difference between a snowboard and a vacuum?
Oh, dude, this joke. Okay, it's where you attach the dirt bag.
No, the size of the dirt bag attached to him.
Oh, there you go. Let's come back to that joke in a little while. I have a whole story about that joke.
Okay, because I was going to ask you your best jokes now. But you might just want to tell a story about that joke.
Here's the thing about my jokes is my jokes got to last in a snowcat from the bottom of the run to the top of the run.
Oh, you're that guy.
So I have some like long ass jokes that I can tell.
Yeah, we can't.
Maybe
we can't
if you want to have an extended version, we could do Jeff's joke time. But you know, everyone who's been to Baldface pretty much heard my jokes. They usually involve a penguin.
Okay, well, we're not going to tell your penguin joke, but you become like the unofficial K2 snowboard rep in the Tahoe area, and I think it's like you and Tim Manning driving around shop to shop selling the brand.
Well, no, Manning was a pro.
Yeah,
back then.
But didn't he go with you to shops to like validate the brand, and you're doing all the talking, and he's just like, yeah, I'm one of the pros, and you're getting accounts that way?
Yeah, I've been in that for sure. I mean, Tim and I were friends from school. And so we chummed around all over the place and did all sorts of fun things back then.
Because you went to school with him, and you went with Jim Frapps too, who's like your partner in Baldface from the beginning. But you guys knew each other right when you got to Tahoe because of college, right?
Yeah, Frapps, Manning. Yeah, dude, all those guys. Dylan Farr, Wade Wheeler, all these guys. Yeah, we were all at Sierra Nevada. And my wife, Paula. She was Tim's roommate in college.
So you have this whole crew that all becomes pretty heavy in snowboarding, and then you're part of the K2 crew, so are you like hanging out with the Paradas of the world and the Farmers and the Morgan LaFontes and all of them as well?
A bit. I mean, they were kind of like a bit older than me, and remember, I kind of left Colorado because I just didn't want to get sucked into just drinking Jack Daniels and smoking tons of weed and eating mushrooms all the time. I can do that, and I didn't want to do it, and there was quite a bit of that in that culture, in that era, and I was really just kind of a little more focused, you know, and I wasn't trying to be a pro snowboarder, and I wasn't trying to be like Mr. Party rep guy. You know, I had to pay for school, and I didn't want to be a jackass, and I really appreciated the opportunity to get that job, and I wanted to do something with it. You know, I didn't want to go back to Cleveland after an adventure. I wanted to make it work.
So you've got this snowboard life with K2. K2 still has a ski element as well. So you also tight with the Plakes and the Scott Schmidts and even like Brad Holmes on the ski side?
I was always a little bit scared of Brad Holmes, to tell you the truth. But yeah, I knew those guys for sure. And I got to go to Greenland with Scott Schmidt many years later, and I have a good relationship with him. And when you're a tech rep and you're the snowboard guy, I wasn't spending a lot of time with those skier dudes. Maybe at the sales meetings at K2, if I got to go, you know, I'd kind of have a word or two with them, but not an intimate relationship or anything like that.
Okay. And then K2 also had wakeboards at that time.
Oh, yeah.
What was your setup in that world? Did you have like a boat, and were you guys just all kicking it on the boat all summer long?
Well, I didn't have a boat, but my friend Wade, his dad had a boat out there, and we went all the time. Wake surfing, or what did you call it? Wakeboarding back then.
Yeah.
And he had an air chair.
Yeah, I remember those things.
Yeah, and that's what it was called, Flag Girl, because the other boats would just take a girl with them and she wouldn't even go riding. She would just put the flag up in the air, you know?
Yep.
And we were like, man, we should just make one so that when you're driving the boat with just one buddy, you could hit a button and the flag would go up when your buddy fell down. That was the idea.
And everybody was all in. You could have become a millionaire, but you weren't going to do that because you had this rock star life at that point. I think you might have bought a house in Tahoe. I think your brothers maybe made you invest a little bit early on too. So for like a 24-year-old or a 25-year-old, you're like being really smart about it, but you're living the dream. And at that point, do you kind of look at everything like, hey, I can do this rep thing for the rest of my life?
No, I didn't. I worked for Brian and then I graduated from college. And when I graduated, like my father passed away in there.
Sorry, yeah.
And when he passed away, I was like, shit, dude, this is it. This is the chance. So I took, it wasn't like a ton of money. He was a potato salesman for Cleveland. Well, he sold other things. But I went immediately and put a down payment on a house in Kings Beach. Not a super fancy house or anything. And then I had 2 roommates in a 2-bedroom house. And I strung that along for quite a while so that I could start paying that house off. And I really wanted to do that to honor my dad and honor myself, you know? So, yeah, I was taking it pretty seriously. I don't think I was living like a rock star lifestyle. I don't know. I felt so lucky to live in Lake Tahoe. It's such an incredible place. I had never even experienced anything like that. I love swimming in that lake. The Mexican market in Kings Beach, La Mexicana, and eating wet burritos down at Speedboat Lane. I don't know that there's a better life for a 23 to 25-year-old. But working for K2, I kind of realized like I was just bouncing my head into the ceiling with Brian, who's a really nice guy. And I was never going to get to be the rep. Like, why would anybody ever give that job up?
Yeah, you have to like die or something like that for someone to move up because it is a very lucrative job and it's a great gig if you're the head guy.
That's it. You know, and Brian helped me pay for college. Like, he was very benevolent. I have nothing but great things to say about him. He was awesome. But I was like, man, my opportunity is in snowboarding, not being a tech rep for a ski company that makes snowboards. And so I left.
Well, but you also had an opportunity, I think. Wasn't there a team management job where you go up to Vashon and it was like...
God, you really did your homework.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there was this team manager job because K2 was blowing up. And I went up and I interviewed with Luke and Haley and Brent. I thought I was going to get the job for sure because I knew all these guys. And they ended up hiring this really nice guy from like North Carolina, Dave Billinghurst.
Yeah, no, I know him very well.
Yeah, and like I'm buddies with Dave. He's a great guy, but I was a little bit heartbroken driving back down from Seattle.
Were you heartbroken or were you bitter? I would have been pissed off because you're connected. You know every snowboarder in like the most important market for the company. You've built the brand for 3 years on your back when maybe all your snowboarder friends are like, oh, he's repping a skier brand. But you do it with confidence, like, fuck yeah, we're going to build it. And then they pass over you like a Jewish holiday. Do you just come back home and quit right away? Like, fuck you guys?
No, it wasn't really like that so much. It was more like Dave must be better qualified. You know, he owned a shop and he was doing it in the East Coast. I didn't really look at it like, fuck you guys. Like Luke was so good to me and Jason Kasnitz and Haley Martin and Brent, God, I can't remember his name, but he was, yes, Brent Turner. Those guys were so great and they were really generous with their time with me. I wasn't pissed. I was just like, fuck. I was a little hard on myself. Like I let myself get ahead of myself and I thought I was definitely going to get that job and I didn't. And then I was like, all right, fuck it. I'm not going to continue to be a tech rep. And my friends had started a snowboard company a few years earlier. And my buddy, Rusty Dobbs, who is one of the greatest guys ever, he was the first rep for Volcom and he was doing LibTech right as it was all happening. And I helped out a little bit with that.
With LibTech in the beginning?
Just little teeny bit with Rusty, just sitting in the van with him. Like we were just friends. So we would go travel together and I didn't have anything to do. I wasn't under any contractual, like... He's
like, hey, I'm going on this loop. And you're like, right. I'll sit with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to be in the scene still. And then Rusty left Lib and he went to work for this company called Glissade, who made snowboards called Crap. And Greg Pronko and Mike O'Reilly started that company. And Rusty was the Northern California rep. And I decided to leave and be the sales manager for those guys. And it was awesome. I got to work with Greg. We hired a Japanese distributor, a South American distributor. We had reps all over the US, just like K2 did. We sold to a distribution company in Canada. And I learned about business on a way bigger global scale, about like how letters of credit work, how manufacturing works. I feel like I got an absolute MBA working for Greg at Glissade.
You guys are pressing your own boards in the States
Yeah.
too, right? Like you were at the office at the factory?
Yeah, in Chico, California.
Okay.
It was awesome. And I also did a company called Soup Kitchen with a couple of guys out of Oregon and did the same thing, hired reps and hired distributors while we were scaling up Glissade. And it was so fucking cool, Mike. Like, that was a really cool era. I learned so much and my network grew with these amazing people all over the world. And I kind of realized how big snowboarding was really getting.
I don't mean to cut you off, but with Soup Kitchen, I heard in the beginning, some people got offered to be paid in weed.
Yeah, 100%.
I guess that was snowboarding out of Ashland, Oregon at that point in time.
Yeah, totally. And like, it wasn't me, but yeah, they were kind of in that world as well. And they did what they had to do to get that company going. That company was sick. Like, those guys were dedicated and rootsy and making quality product out of Ashland, Oregon. And yeah, they maybe paid some people with weed or even helped them build out their stores. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever it takes, man. That's what it was back then.
Yeah, so this is like part 2 of your snowboard journey in the industry. Of K2's part 1. We'll say Kemper just happened, but it wasn't really a huge part of it. But yeah, this is part 2 of it. And then what happens at the end of this one? Because it seems like it's a pretty good gig.
It's great.
They were ahead of their time, Glissade manufacturing. A lot of things were happening. Why did that end?
Well, we kind of would set these goals and then we'd hit the goals and then set the goals again for the next year and hit the goals. And I finally went to Greg and I was like, man, I'm kind of feeling the same way I felt about K2, where I'm like, I'm just bouncing my head off the ceiling. I want to like own part of this or something, you know, like I'm just like not really satisfied having my commission grow a little bit every year on what I'm doing. I want more. And Greg was really benevolent and nice, and we're still super good friends, but he was like, buddy, this is my company. This isn't your company, you know? And so I was like, fuck, man. I don't want to do this anymore. You know, we did it. We accomplished every goal we wanted to accomplish, but I'm not like super money driven dude. And I was like, I think you're set up for success right now. And my job here is done. And if I'm not going to own part of the company, maybe it's time for me to figure some shit out. So I left on good terms. Right.
Yeah.
And remember the North Tahoe Truckee Week newspaper?
I know about it. Yeah.
So I took out an ad in North Tahoe Truckee Week as guy with truck.
Okay.
And I was guy with truck on the North Shore for like a summer, really, while I was trying to figure it out. And I'd like fix people's docks and like sweep off their decks and maybe put their boat in the water and put it on their buoy. And my name kind of got out with a few rich guys. So I kind of had these families that I would like set up their place, put their lawn furniture out, and like, get it ready for them. And then when they'd leave, they'd be like, you're so nice. Can you take our boat out of the water? And you can just have whatever booze is left in the house and like drink the beers and take the food out of the fridge. Again, it was a little bit of a dream job I created for myself there. I loved that job. A lot of cash in my pocket. It was awesome.
So you're the pool boy putting boats in the water, doing all that kind of stuff. And I'm going to speed up your story a little bit for a second. At some point, you and a girl break up. I think you end up spending a lot of time snowboarding. She goes to India or something. You end up like going to treat yourself to a trip to go heli skiing, heli boarding. And you're like, yes, right before you get hurt. And since you can't get your money back, you're like, I'm still going to go up there and hang out. Do you ride even though you're in pain?
Oh my God, I did. So I just was like, fuck, man. I sent so many guys like heli skiing and Tim Manning had gone and all my friends had done this thing. And I'm like, I'm going to do this before I was kind of like thinking I might just go get a shitty job. If I'm going to work for someone else, I might as well get paid a lot for it. I was like, I don't know, maybe I'll just go get a job. And so I had some money and I was like, I'm going to call every heli skiing operation in Canada and tell them like, somebody gets hurt, I'll drive up there overnight. Like, I just want to go, you know, and I want to be on the wait list, but I can't afford to do $7,000 to go heli skiing or whatever it was back then. So I ended up getting a call from a lodge over in Lillooet. They said, hey, we got this spot open and there's this guy who's coming in and he'll pay you $400 to give him a ride from Whistler over if you drive up. I was like, I'm your boy. Great. So I drive up and I meet my friend Arlie Karstens and Dave Rogers, and we go to Alpental on the way up, and I fucking break my ankle on my way to my heli skiing trip, hitting a flat landing at Alpental. And I went to the hospital in Harborview, and they're like, yeah, you got a spiral fracture. And so they soft casted it. I call the heli lodge and I'm like, I just broke my ankle. Can I have my money back? And they're like, no, you can't have your money back. But you can come up and fly around in the helicopter and eat the food and see what it's all about. And I was like, fuck.
Hey, Jeff.
I guess.
I just tried to speed this whole story up. I said it in like 20 seconds.
Should I speed up or slow down?
No. You don't even have to tell it. I already told your whole story of like, you were going to do this trip, going heli skiing. You broke your ankle.
Here's the short story. The guy I picked up was a pharmacist. And he had all these pills, and he was like, no big deal. You could go. Just take one of these in the morning, take one of these in the afternoon. And sure enough, he was right. So I taped up my ankle. I got to the lodge, and I got to go. And it was
a life-changing experience, I would think. But I feel like just being at the lodge and experiencing the riding is probably life-changing. But the crazy thing is that your ex-girlfriend's dad is there, and he's like, hey, funny seeing you here. And in between beers or runs or I don't know what you guys are doing, he's like, my ski racing daughter that you love, she's back in Nelson. You should go check her out. And is that how you end up in Canada?
That is how I ended up in Canada. That is it.
I'm stealing some of your story, but you're like 26. And it's like an 80s movie because you give up your whole life for this girl. You don't have a job or anything like that. You just go. She becomes your wife, and that's the love story. But how does the Baldface story begin? Because you get to Nelson. Do you like kind of look around and you're like, man, I was just at this heli lodge and it was awesome. And all these places I've been to are all skier focused and no one's ever done anything for snowboarding. And I can be that guy?
I mean, if you really boil it down, yes, that's how it happened.
You're 26 years old though, right? Or something like that?
Yeah. I was 26. And I drove over to Nelson and I saw Paula. And then I drove back down to Tahoe and was just like, here's what my mindset was, Mike. I was like, that heli trip was rad, but those guides were kind of douchey. And the whole experience was pretty stupid. But the heli part was really great. But the fake skis at the lodge and the kind of fat, douchey guides yelling at me for not making perfect snakes next to each other down the run. They made fun of me at dinner. They told the fucking vacuum cleaner joke at dinner. I was the only snowboarder there. And I definitely drove back down to Tahoe going like, man, there's an opportunity. Those guys have no idea what's happening in snowboarding. And my super mega hot babe of an ex-girlfriend's up in Nelson. And I went back down to Tahoe, and there I saw Jim Fraps, who owns Sierra Nevada Pizza. And I talked to Fraps about it, and Fraps is like, I've been trying to go to this place called Selkirk Wilderness Skiing for like 5 years. The helicopter places are rad. The cat places, you just can't get into. People just go back every year. Island Lake Lodge, Great Northern Snowcats, Selkirk Wilderness Skiing. All these places, you just couldn't get in unless somebody died because everybody rebooked. And he told me this, and I was like, wow, I have a ski business management degree. Fraps opened a restaurant and is a freaking workhorse. Paula's up there. I'm like, I'm going to go back up to Nelson and learn about what you have to do to, maybe I can start my own place. I was that dumb and ambitious. And I had $50,000 saved up at this point. And I was like, fuck it. I'm going to go take this 50 grand. It might've been 40 grand. I was like, I'm going to go take this money and I'm going to go have the adventure of a lifetime and try to get Paula back. And maybe I'll figure this out. So I went up to Nelson. And literally, I see this insane sport van, like a big full-size van, lifted up with like 33-inch tires on it, a pop-up top, a kitchen in it. These things were so badass, you could drive it all the way to Chile.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So I'm drooling over this van on Baker Street, and there's a CD store right in front of it, and the door to the fucking van opens, Mike. And Craig Kelly jumps out of the van. And he looks at me, and he goes, hey, man. Is there a CD store in this town? And I'm like, yeah, you parked right in front of it. He's like, thanks, bro. And he walks into the store. And I ran home to Silica Street where Paula was. And I was like, Paula, I just saw Craig Kelly on the street. Like, that's a sign.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I'm like, that's a fucking sign. And so I kind of held on to that. And Paula started writing some articles and interviewing government people. There was a moratorium on backcountry tenures at that time. And they literally were removing the moratorium on backcountry tenures. So Paula had this great reason to go talk to government people about what the process was like instead of me. And she gathered so much information. Fraps started coming up. And he was like really focused guy and started really like putting maps up on the wall, and we drive up and check places out. He wasn't much of a like ski tour or split board or anything. So I would actually go into the mountains and go check it all out. And Fraps was really looking into like how do you get food here? How do restaurants work?
He's logistics. Then you had like John Buffery, who's like a legendary dude taking you out everywhere and showing you places there.
Well, then I meet Buffery. There was a terrible accident that year that killed 11 people up at a ski touring lodge called Kokanee Glacier Cabin. It was a real tragedy, and the whole town was lit up. And I'm the dumbass, like going out, checking out terrain all over the place. Finally, one day, this guy comes up to me. He's like, "Are you a guide, or what? I see you at Oso Negro every morning with your truck and your sled, and I had built my own split board." And I was like, "Yeah, no, I'm not a guide. I'm just kind of got an idea." And so I started talking with Buffery about it, and Buffery started coming with me. He was like, "I'm going to come with you." And fun fact, he was a telemarker at that time on those atomic skis that looked like tubes,
Yeah, the beta carves.
Yeah. So Buffery was on those. I was on my split board, and we would go check out rad places together. I was shocked. And I didn't know what a legend he was. Well, his legend grew after that.
It's time for my second round of sponsors, and my final sponsor this round is Outdoor Research. And while I have long loved OR because they make the best, most waterproof, warmest outerwear in the world that's engineered and tested right here in the miserable conditions that the Pacific Northwest can deliver, that's just what OR makes in the winter. And while everyone out there knows that OR makes the best lightweight hiking pants ever built, the men's and women's freewheel mountain bike collection, a collection of high-performance bike apparel, is setting the standard for functional and durable mountain bike gear. Every detail has been thought of, so you don't have to think about the fit of your gear. You can focus on the terrain and getting yourself into your flow state. It's time to return to dirt, and OR has the trail-ready gear to get you out there in comfort and style. To upgrade your fit, head on over to OutdoorResearch.com and check out the freewheel collection. Those are my sponsors. Now let's jump back into the podcast. But you have all the right people working with you. It's like it's not just you, but you've got the business mind, the degree, and just from everything that you've done in life, you're always going to push forward. And even if you fail, it doesn't matter. You just never failed. It's just kind of always worked out. But you put all the right pieces together, and there's no chance you're going to fail if you have the right people.
Oh, yeah. And we failed at a lot of things, but I learned from those and didn't make the same mistake twice. And you got to be kind to yourself as you're putting your plan together and doing it, and realize like your first draft is the first of about 100 drafts. Well,
I mean, for you, your business plan, we won't go into the story, but it ends up on some dude's desk who can give you some money. And so you've got an investor who's down for the cause. That's plan A. Everything's working perfect. And then 9/11 happens and it screws everything up that you thought you had plans for. Like you were going to build a $7 million lodge and you're lucky to get like 75 grand after that.
Yeah. 9/11 fucked everything up. And yeah, it's only an hour and a half long podcast. You got to state your intention and then deal with reality as it rolls in. And that's what that was, a series of events. And every time that something really challenging happened, another really amazing door opened or another really awesome introduction happened. And, my role was really just kind of like, we got to move forward at least 1 inch every day. We don't have to go a mile every day, but if we make it 1 inch forward, that's a success. And we got to celebrate those successes. And it happened, man. The people that we met, me and Fraps and Paul back in those days, and then Buffery brought more people in. Buffery brought Craig Kelly back into the fold. Incredible having Craig and Buff.
Was he one of the core guys in the beginning? Like if you look at like the 5 core guys, it's like you, Frap, Buff, and Craig Kelly, and who else was in there?
And Paula.
Okay.
Yeah, we really just put our elbows out and started doing it. And then we started getting help from other people. There was another guy, Tim Ripple, an Everest mountaineer, who helped out a lot with like actually selecting where we ended up. Because we looked all the way up to where Micah Creek is. We looked where Chatter is now. We had 7 different tenures under investigation when we started that we were checking out. And we ended up with this really great tenure just north of Nelson, in no small part because Craig and Buff thought that was the place. And Nelson needed a place like this at that time. The town was dying. And yeah, we have a significant impact on this town now, economically and culturally. It's really cool what's happened in the last almost 30 years.
Well, I mean, given your jobs aren't year-round jobs. What's your season? 3.5 months?
We run from December 1st till April 15th at Baldface and a little bit shorter at Valhalla.
And then how many people work at each place?
There's 153 people on the payroll in the winter, and there's about 20 people on the payroll in the summer.
So in a town like Nelson, that's a huge impact on just the restaurants, the everything, everybody is impacted by Baldface.
Totally.
And then you have some ballers come in town and they're impacted even more.
True. Yes.
But when you start out and you think you're going to have this $7 million lodge, and then everything comes crashing down with the Twin Towers and you have to rescale back, but you have all these people that are helping you build this whole thing. What's plan B? How do you get from, hey, we're going to have this big lodge to what do you do next?
We build a 40 by 40 timber frame, and then we got kind of workforce housing. We got ATCO trailers up there. And we built a little village out of ATCO trailers and this 40 by 40 timber frame, and we were off to the races. We did 2 cats, and yeah, man, we just got her going.
What's a cat cost to buy? Like your first, are you buying a new cat or a used cat?
No, we bought really shitty old cats off of the oil patch. So like the lifespan of a cat is a resort buys it new, and then they sell it and it goes up to the oil patch for what they call muskeg work. So they drive them around the mud, the swampy mud where they get oil out of the ground, and they service their derricks and their camps with snowcats up there that basically drive around in the mud. And that beats the shit out of them. And then idiots like me buy them at the end of that to start cat skiing operations.
Can you get them for less than $100,000 kind of thing?
Oh man, back then our really first investors were Nate and Dave from the Foo Fighters. And we got, I think, $100,000 off of those guys was the first investment. We bought 2 cats with that. So one was 40 and one was 60 back then.
So the Foo Fighters have a role in creating Baldface. I had Amen on the podcast at one point. Did he put anything into Baldface as well? Because I think he said he knew you or something was going on with that.
He didn't. He could have, but Nate and Dave were great. I tried to keep it as tight as I could in the early days. And that would be Craig Kelly's advice. Craig was a very, very wise businessman as well.
So it was all about not taking any money from anybody if you didn't have to, and just bootstrapping it, and then you'll reap the benefits later on.
Exactly. Craig was a really great mentor that way for me.
And so when the Foo Fighters put money into the lodge, do they expect a return on their investment? Like, do you have to pay them back, or they just want to do cool shit?
They just wanted to do cool shit at that moment, which was great because it was slow, patient money. And that's what we needed at that time. I was like, man, we got to raise a lot more cash before we start returning any money to investors. This is like sunk in money for a long time. And they were good with that. Nate just wanted to come out and shred. And I think Dave just wanted to be part of something real. And, he appreciated the drive. I think they saw something in there. And obviously they knew who Craig was, and they could see that we were on a trajectory to do something really special and amazing. And they supported that, which was really cool.
Yeah, that is really cool. And then, you don't want to blow people up who come to your spot by any means. So I'm not going to ask you to, but I am going to ask you to. Like, who's the best known person outside of the snowboard world on a snowboarder that you've had up to the lodge where you're like, holy shit, that guy can ride. He must have ridden his whole life.
Probably Lewis Hamilton.
I don't even know who that is.
Lewis is a 7-time F1 champion.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't follow race cars, so yeah, I don't know that. But
yeah, probably Lewis, and then probably Ken Block.
Yeah.
Ken and I ended up becoming pretty good friends, and he really supported us. He wasn't an investor or anything, but Ken loved the lodge and loved the staff and was so awesome about doing rad projects up there and always extending his network. And can't say enough great things about Ken. I serve on the board of his foundation, 43i, and all we do is help other people out, because that's really what, the underlying thing is. Ken was a great entrepreneur with DC and a great rally car driver with everything he did with Hoonigan and all those amazing cars. But at the end of the day, I think he should be known as just the ultimate brother. He answered the phone, helped so many people out behind the scenes, gave them advice, hooked them up with connections. He was a gnarly dude. He was a great businessman, which means he didn't do dumb shit. But Ken was a pretty big part of the story, really, later in the story, for sure.
And you think of Ken, he's someone that we've lost, and Craig, someone that we've lost, and you probably lost so many people over the years. I mean, who was the first person that you lost that was super heavy for you? I mean, obviously your dad, I would think, when you were younger, but outside of your dad and just friendship.
Yeah, Craig, man, when he passed, that was a really tough one because Olivia was just born. He and Sav had a really beautiful love story that Paul and I really, were adjacent to. He was walking away from everything to become a dad here and part of the scene, and to have him go the way that he went and with so much integrity and chasing down his guiding ticket, that was really hard, Mike. That was really, really hard. It continues to be hard. I miss him. It's not like I was super best buddies with Craig or anything, but we were definitely business partners. And we wrote up a contract between the two of us, and he sat in on every meeting I was doing. And I was so honored to have a guy who had been through so much with Burton and Sims and world championships and all the sponsorships he had. It was like, yeah, there was a terrible vacuum in his wake. Same with Ken.
Yeah, you have to deal with it, and it's part of, I guess, life in the mountains, but it's never really easy, and it's always shocking when it happens to someone different. Thinking of a different kind of catastrophe that's happened at Baldface, since Mother's Day is just coming up this weekend, what was the Mother's Day story of 15 years ago that you wake up every year thinking, remember what happened 14 years ago?
Dude, that was fucking crazy. So we had taken those ATCO trailers, moved them around, and put a giant roof over all the ATCO trailers. We're a 3-cat operation at this point because we had built some cabins. There's a bunch of cabins, 7 cabins next to the lodge. So we were a 3-cat operation. We were just kind of normalizing everything and figuring out how this thing works. And Paula and I had 2 kids, and then we had twins in March. So Paula was home with 2 twins and 2 other kids.
That's a lot. Like a lot.
Yeah, man, it was game on.
And you grew up with 4 too.
Yeah, but I had a stepbrother and stepsister. They were a bit older than our gap. But yeah, I definitely grew up in a house with a lot of kids and parents and things going on. So we had these twins, and they're great, and we love them, and we're off to the races, and I'm back up at the lodge, and we finish off the season, and we had Teton Gravity Research up there building the biggest gap jump ever at the time for Tom Wallish. And we were shooting with a Phantom and a helicopter, and I'm up there and I'm so focused, and we're building it out with JP Martin, building the jumps, and Todd's up there coming in, and the Canucks were in the playoffs that year. So we're all downstairs, and I went down because it was Mother's Day and wanted to make a nice breakfast for Paula. So I went down to town, and I get a phone call the next morning at like 6 a.m. And it's Dave Thomas, who is definitely one of the guys who is a hero of Baldface. He was my operations guy forever. And he's like, Jeff, the lodge collapsed last night. And we had continued winds of like 100 to 140 kilometers an hour for probably 3 or 4 days, and heavy snow after we had shut down. I had homies up there, young guys, shoveling off the roof, and it would just fill right back in. So they were all up there watching hockey, and they heard these loud cracking noises, and they really weren't sure what it was. Turns out it was the King Truss failing little by little, and at about 12:15 at night, the entire structure over the ATCO trailers just had a catastrophic failure, and down it went.
Oh, what a nightmare.
And yeah, I looked at Paula, I made her breakfast. I'm like, honey, I'm going up there, and I don't know when I'm coming back down again. I got to figure some shit out. And we had a contractor in town, Terry Maglio, who ended up becoming a guide up there, who helped me build the whole place. And I went up with Terry, and he looked at me, and he's like, we got to rebuild this thing. And I looked at him, and I'm like, we got to rebuild this thing. I got this contest that I signed up for with Travis Rice that's going to change snowboarding forever. And I have to get this lodge built. And I have to host this contest. There's no getting out of it. I don't care if we have fucking tents up here, what we're doing, but we got to build something. And dude, this town came together. Terry helped out. Henry Fisher, who was one of my partners at the time, helped out. I can't even express how many people it took to rebuild that lodge, but very, very long and hard story. We got it done, and we got it done. And Todd Jones looked at me, and he's like, right when it happened, he's like, you're rebuilding that fucking lodge, and you're going to get the sickest part from Teton Gravity Research ever. And we're going to help put that place on the map. And I called Travis, and I'm like, the lodge collapsed, Trav. I don't know if we can do this contest. And Trav's like, you're rebuilding that lodge. And we're going to do the sickest snowboard contest ever. And we're going to put that place so on the map, it's going to be sold out forever. You got to rebuild the lodge. I'm going to help you promote it like crazy. And both those things happened, and we were able to get it rebuilt, which is crazy. And it's still there today. And we built it with a 760-pound snow load on the roof, where before it was 270. So we basically built a 5-story building and built the first 2 stories. And that lodge will never collapse for sure. And the timber frame survived, and the chalets survived, and we put it all back together. We filmed that part for TGR. It was in a movie called One for the Road, and that was when the internet was just starting to really help sell a lot of seats. So they chopped it up in all these little pieces, and it was everywhere. And then that's the year we did Supernatural with Red Bull and Travis. And it was a pretty groundbreaking contest. Not only did we build the lodge that summer, but we built that Supernatural course that summer as well. which was wild. I could do a whole episode on building that thing. It was freaking incredible process.
But I think that stuff's for like the other podcasts that get behind snowboarding. I'm kind of looking into your life and times, how you built your business. It's kind of more the way that my podcast goes. Yeah. But in thinking about it, where you have kept building and building and building every year on this thing, given the structure goes down in 2011, you're able to rebuild it. And then the event goes off. Is that when you're consistently able to sell out? Because you're one of those places now, right? Like where if you want to go, you go. And then when you're leaving, they're like, hey, do you want your seat next year? Or should we sell it to the guy who's been waiting for a while?
Yeah, it's one of those places now. And that was a big push. We were pretty sold out before, but we were able to put a fourth cat on the weekends after that. The wait list got huge after that. The whole world knew. All these celebrities wanted to come to Baldface after Supernatural, and we were already sold out. It was like the best sales technique is when people want to go and you say, we're sold out maybe next year. That is so powerful.
Yeah. It's like the exclusivity model definitely works. And then with your business, we said you're only working 3.5 months a year. I mean, do you have the books down enough for a season where you can say, we have 4 cats, we need to sell 175 seats, and that's our break-even point, and then everything else is a profit? Or is it kind of a little bit looser than that?
Well, there's a lot of variables in it. And, now with Valhalla, it's 7 cats, which is great.
So any given day, you could have 60 people out there on the mountain?
Oh, yeah.
That's 60 paying customers. That's crazy.
I think it's 72.
I mean, you know more than me. But how much does it cost a day to go to Baldface?
Well, we don't really do it by the day. It's all 3 and 4 day trips.
If you can get in, what does a 4-day trip cost? But you can't get in.
It kind of depends on the time of year, but it's almost $8,000 for that.
Whoa. So, I mean, you've got 100 employees and it's got to cost a lot of money to be able to feed that many mouths, have the infrastructure that you have and 7 cats and the food and all the different stuff. But wow, that's crazy that you can have 72 people a day.
84. I just did the math. It's 84 people a day when I'm full.
Wow. So, and you're full most of the time, right?
I'm full all the time. But Valhalla is a day operation and it's significantly less expensive because there's no accommodation on the Valhalla side.
You don't have to get like helied in or anything?
No, we take you in by ground, but most of those guys stay in Nelson and stay at the hotels and eat dinners in town. And then it's just a day operation over there. And I'm working on expanding that into another lodge-based operation that'll probably have day skiing and, 3 and 4 day trips there too. That's where that's going.
All right. Well, I know this isn't about money for you. It was always about building things, but you have to be rich. You have 84 people a day paying an average of, we'll say $6,000. You've lived the American Canadian dream. What do you consider yourself now more, Canadian or American? Because there's a little asterisk if you're American these days, I feel like.
I renounced my U.S. citizenship 2 years ago.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, so I'm an expat. I'm a full Canadian.
And did you do that just because of the state of the United States or were there tax benefits? Or what was your reasoning behind doing that?
There's a couple of reasons. I mean, I think the main one is after 25 years, I'm never going back. I'm here, like you said, my business is successful. I want to continue to invest in Canada. And I really love it up here. And I just feel like I'm a Canadian with 4 kids, all these employees. I'm Canadian. And Buffrey ran for mayor a few years ago. And there was a part of me that was like, God, I wonder if I could run for RDCK. That's kind of like the county. And I maybe would like to do something like that as I age, because I'd like to give back to this community. But I don't think as an American, I'm ever going to get elected for anything. So I think the biggest part was I'd really like to maybe run for mayor or run for something up here someday. And I don't want to do it as a dual citizen.
I think just renouncing your citizenship makes it an even more powerful campaign story. I love Canada so much that I wanted nothing to do with those guys below us. I could go on and on with this podcast. I'm not going to, but I do have to bring up a couple athlete relationships. You brought up Craig Kelly. There's Travis Rice. And when you think of people like that, they're 2 of the icons of the sport. They're 2 people that come up in my podcast a lot. And when people talk about them, they talk about people that were able to get stuff out of them, that pushed them to do a little bit more just because of the human being that they were. And when you know those guys very well, like both of those guys, is there something different about them than everybody else that passes through your doors? And can you kind of figure that out?
Yeah, I know what it is. I've talked with Travis about it, and I think You got to talk about Jamie Lynn in the conversation.
Okay, yeah,
as
who else
well.
gets on that level?
I mean, Jamie, I feel like is one of the greatest gifts that the world has ever given me is my friendship with Jamie. And I can go down the list with a lot of skiers. Sage Cabredo Losa, I think, is of that level. I think Dash Long is of that level. I think Greta Eliasson is like of that level. There's a lot of people in that category.
But I mean, Travis Rice and Craig Kelly, given Craig's not here, but Travis Rice is one of those people that all those people that you just named aren't starstruck, but they're a little bit like, oh man, we're with Travis Rice because he is the next level. And Craig was that too.
He's on another level. Jamie's on that level. Austin Sweeten's on that level. There are many on that level. And Travis has done a great job, and his sponsors have done a great job of elevating him and giving him the opportunity to show what he can do. And there's some others who have not had that opportunity that have that same je ne sais quoi. And I would define it as, I can ride a snowboard my whole life. I'm never going to ride it like Jamie and Travis. And the reason is when I line up for a particularly, scary piece of terrain, and I can ride it, the world speeds up for me as I'm in those situations. And when I'm in the air, the ground pulls me down back to it. Gravity, like a coconut. Travis, the world slows down for him when he's in those gnarly situations. And when he finds something to jump off of, the gravity doesn't affect him the same as it affects me. I'm honest when I say it. He does not get pulled back down to the ground like I get pulled back down to the ground. And Sage is a great example. I've watched Sage change directions in the air, in the trees, with like back-breaking consequences, with a smile on his face. Like, he knows how to fuck with gravity and time in a way that my brain can't do and my body can't do. And that's why those athletes get what they get. And that's why there's only so many people that can breathe that air. And my job is to give them the jumps and the terrain and the safety so they can do their fucking thing. And that's what I love about what I do, is I'm like the maitre d' for the best meal a lot of those guys have ever had. That's what I loved about building Supernatural, is like I got to share that Travisness with DCP and Nicholas Mueller and Vole Nijvelt and you name it. I got to serve it up with all those guys. Terrier. I mean, all of them. It was amazing.
You have a pretty charmed life, and it's pretty cool, the experiences that you have. And right now in your life, you've got a daughter who's killing it, and you've got a ton of things going on, but that's really all I'm going to talk about on the podcast. Everything else post Baldface and a lot of the really hardcore snowboard stories you've told before in other places, and I think everybody can find them out. I wanted to tell your story of your business and how you got to where you are, and a little more background where I don't think you've talked about a lot of the stuff that you talked about, but who knows, maybe you have. But I end every show with something that I call Inappropriate Questions, and this is where I get someone that you know to ask 3 questions, and they can be anything. And this week I was able to get a guy that helped build snowboarding with you in Tahoe, a guy who went shop to shop, it sounded like. He sat shotgun in your van. Tim Manning, he was the pro snowboarder, and you were the salesman building K2 in the area. He came up with 3 questions. Are you ready for question number 1?
Okay, sure, Manning. Let's do it.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Jeff. Tim Manning here. What's up, old school buddy? Love ya. So question number 1 here. So you snowmobile a lot for your job now at Baldface Lodge. Can you tell us about your first time snowmobiling in Tahoe and explain what happened when I let you ride on my premium snowmobile titled El Tigre?
Well, I may remember it different than Tim, but Tim had these 2 old snowmobiles. One was called I can't remember. It was like an Arctic Cat powder special or something. And he would always ride that one. And then he'd give this really shitty old snowmobile. It was like a 340 fan cooled called El Tigre. And that thing couldn't climb a parking lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we would try to follow the hatchets out to Little Alaska up Mount Rose Highway. We would go up from Brockway Summit all the way over there on these terrible snowmobiles. And I'm sure the punchline of the story is that I got the thing stuck, or I caught it on fire, or it rolled down a mountain somewhere. That's my guess is the answer to the story. It probably didn't go as good. But that El Tigre, to its credit, probably only weighed 200 pounds full of gas. So it was really easy to pick up and move around compared to the snowmobiles that I ride today.
Have you ever caught a snowmobile on fire?
Oh, yeah. I've caught all sorts of machines on fire. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Yeah. And I know how to put them back together again after I do. So I feel like I can handle the responsibility, you know?
All right. Well, we will go with your second inappropriate question. Here we go.
Yeah, Jeff. So question number 2, it's a big one, fond memory of mine for sure. So your first date with your wife was very memorable. Would you like to share the experience? Do tell.
Shit. Wow.
Yeah, we usually don't bring up partners and first dates, but it looks like we are tonight.
Well, Tim was Paula's roommate. Paula just thought I was another dirtbag snowboarder. Paula graduated summa cum laude, like philosophy, literature major, very heady lady. And I kept asking her out on dates. She wouldn't go on a date with me. Finally, I was like, come on, you want to play tennis? Safe date, right? During the day.
Yeah.
She's like, all right, I'll go play tennis with you. So I didn't have a car then. So she picked me up and we went to this health food store, the Mustard Seed that was Tahoe Vista. She goes, you ever been here before? I'm like, oh yeah, I come here all the time. I had never been there before,
right.
You know? And she's like, I like the Royal Buzz. Which one do you like? I'm like, yeah, Royal Buzz. That's what I get all the time. I love that one. You know, smoothies. So we get these smoothies. We drive to the tennis courts in Tahoe Vista and I drink this smoothie. And right as we get out, I'm like, I like how the Royal Buzz makes your lips buzz. She's like, what? I'm like, yeah, you know, isn't that why they call it the Royal Buzz? She's like, no, it's got bee pollen in it. That's why they call it the Royal Buzz. I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah. So we go to start playing tennis. We play tennis for a little bit. I'm a pretty good tennis player. And I had to take a shit so bad.
Okay.
I was like, oh my God, I'm going to explode right now. And I'm like, Paula, give me a minute. And I run over and it was like spring. So the bathrooms weren't open in the park.
Uh-huh.
So I literally had to unload the demon's breakfast there. And I used my socks to make sure I was cleaned up. And I came back out and she's like, where are your socks? I'm like, don't worry about it. And so we start playing tennis again. And then finally I look at her and I'm like, you know what, Paula, I don't know what's going on, but I do not feel good at all. And she's like, okay, what do you want to do? I'm like, you know what, if you could just take me home, that would be great. Cause I didn't have a car. She's like, well, I got to go to work. So let's go back to the apartment where Tim Manning lived and Ruben Sanchez. And let me take a shower and get ready for work. And I'll drive you home and then I'll take you to work. So she goes and has a shower. And while she's having a shower, I can feel my lips touching my nose. And I'm like, oh, fuck, what is going on? And then I'm starting to have kind of a hard time breathing. And I'm like, this is crazy, man. And they lived above steamers, right, in Kings Beach. And so I ran down to the lake. I was literally like rubbing sand on my belly and my armpits because I was so itchy. And then I like came back up and I had a hoodie on. And I like pulled the strings to the hoodie and I was like, God, hurry up. What's going on? And at this point, I'm like, fuck, I got to go to the hospital or something. Something's up. And she comes out and she looks at me and she took one look at me and she's like, oh my God, we're going to the hospital right now. And so she drives me to Incline and we go to the emergency room. At this point, I'm starting to have a hard time breathing. And they admit me and then they roll me in and this doctor is like, oh my God, this guy's an anaphylaxis. And literally it's like they give me the needle and my heart rate just drops out. And they gave me too much Benadryl or whatever it was. And then this other doctor comes in and I passed out. And then I wake up and he's pulling a cardiac needle out of my chest.
Oh, man.
Like Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
And I look over in the corner of Paula and she's stayed there with me the whole time. She has a little flip phone and I'm like, oh my God, I'm back. You can go to work. And she goes, yeah, they just fired me for being late. It was the worst first date ever, and I did not get another date for a long time. But I got 4 kids with her, and she's waiting at home for me right now, so I ended up winning that whole thing.
That is an amazing story. Great question right there. We will go with your final inappropriate question. Here we go.
Hey, Jeff. So, you know, this story goes back to when I was a loose pro snowboarder, traveling the world week to week all over the place. You and I were sharing a house on Bend Avenue, and my luggage showed up late. I left for my next trip. And hey, Jeff, what's the fishiest thing you've ever found in a surfboard bag?
Oh, man, Tim's asking me questions that maybe have gone through the sands of time. I wish I could remember. There's something in there that's like...
There was 3 salmon in a bag that
I was going to say, he went to Alaska and then he put salmon in his snowboard bag. The bag got lost. It got delivered to my house, and my dog started going insane for this bag. And I opened it up, and there was like rotten, dead salmon in the bag. That's what I remember.
All right, well, I'll end this with one more inappropriate question. You're at this place where there's no rules, anything goes, pretty much just don't set the place on fire. What's the dumbest shit that anybody's done that maybe they didn't get in trouble for or anything, but you're just like, what were they thinking?
Wow, Mike, there's been a lot of that. I mean, there was a weekend where we had, I think Stance rented the whole lodge when they started that company, and they invited all these French Canadians out who I love French Canadians. They're fucking awesome.
Tabernacle.
But at that point, a bunch of them decided that they were wiping their ass with baby wipes, not toilet paper. And they were flushing them down the toilet, and they clogged up my goddamn septic system. And I had to go dig out the septic system that night. Because the toilets weren't working. I had to stick a piece of bamboo in there, and all these baby wipes got caught in a Forno fitting going into the collection tank, and I had to empty it out. And it was quite a lot of poops. Yeah, that was pretty fucking stupid. Don't flush baby wipes down septic systems, people. That's not okay.
There's two rules there. Don't shoot Roman candles at the lodge. Don't flush baby wipes. And don't flush Stance socks either. It's not a prison. They will not take
don't flush
them.
shit down the toilet. Someone flushed a fucking banana down a toilet one time, and that also clogged up the septic, and I had to go clean that up. You know, I may be doing well right now, but there was a lot of poop on the trail on the way to get to where I'm at right now.
Sounds like a lot of Powell movements that you have to deal with, and that's Inappropriate Questions, and that's our podcast. And really, your life's cool because while you come from a good family and you were put in all these good situations for success, you always capitalized on them. You never got lazy. You never just sat back and smoked weed all day long and didn't have the next idea or didn't have the next plan in your life. You're always kind of looking to one-up yourself. And while you're living the Canadian dream now, you had to risk your whole life to make it happen. I don't know if you sold your house at Kings Beach or any of that stuff back in the beginning, but you mortgaged your whole future to make this thing happen, and it all worked out, and that can be pretty scary, but you were able to do it, and now you're living your dream up in Canada. I thank you for sharing your story, and I thank you for your time.
Wow, Mike. It's really nice to be able to share some stories, and my hope is that there's another version of me out there that hears that story and just doesn't quit, because I could have quit so many different times, but like you said, if you got something that you believe in, you got to ride it all the way out, because chances are it's going to work out if you put everything you got into it and don't give up. That's what it comes down to.
So that was time with Jeff Pensiero, and I should have had him on the podcast 10 years ago, before all the other podcasts told the same story over and over. And since I didn't do that, I came into this one trying to make Jeff's story a little bit different and interesting to those who have already heard Jeff's story, and I think I did a pretty good job of that. While I could have beat a dead horse and told some of the same stories, there's a reason that my podcast is the best in action sports, and that's because I put a lot more prep time into making sure these episodes are awesome and not something that you've heard over and over again. But if you want to hear all the bro-bra stories about Jeff and Baldface, well, they're out there. They're all over the internet. Just search for Jeff's name and Snowboard Podcast, and you will find them. And there's some great stories that you don't get in this podcast, but what you get here, you won't find anywhere else. So thank you for listening. Please support my incredible sponsors, Elan Skis and Outdoor Research, and have a great week, everyone.